And we're working. Work, 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 work. All right, welcome back. Hope you're having a good day. This is one of the largest microcarpa cuttings I've ever gotten to take. It was pretty large to begin with. You can see the size of the trunk here. I will admit, when I took it, I actually took it off with this ale root here and this one here, and they both had roots on there, so that I was able to actually get that to kind of feed the tree while, you know, the cutting took. It was saw cut, I mean, you know, which is why I've been able to kind of have it in this flat pot. I did a preliminary, the last video I did on this was in April, and I actually did a preliminary video on this in February where I gave it a hard prune, and then in April I came back and put wire on just the lower branches. Let's see if we can find, right there is where I took that cutting out, and that cutting had some roots kind of growing down in the soil, and that's why I went ahead and just tried to keep it. And let's take a look and see how that guy's doing real quick. And here is that cutting. Not bad for a 6-month-old. Cutting that last video I did of the mother tree there was in April, but I did take this, that was a 2-part video. I did take the cutting in February, so it is a 6-month-old, not just 4 months. One of the coolest parts about living in Florida, where is that fruit, is this thing already has a little fig growing on there, as young as it is. Since this is about 6 months old, I mean, the idea here, I mean, with this twin trunk thing, that's the way the sacrifice branch kind of came off the tree. I don't really know what kind of a style I'm going for, but I know I will just let it trunk up a little bit. I mean, I know it doesn't make sense to have it in a pot this small, but sometimes these ficus trees really don't need all that much roots on them to grow nicely. You can see it's already growing pretty well. I'm not going to do too much. I am going to take off, there's an awkwardly growing branch coming right out of the bottom of it there. Not even much to it, just one of those shoots that ficus get. And then I am just going to kind of take off some of the, you know, you can tell I haven't done anything. I'm just going to take off a few of the interior leaves. I feel like sometimes the newer leaves are better at producing photosynthesis than the older ones are. I think the older ones do continue to contribute to the thickness of the branches, but at the same time, I think when you take off some of the older ones, it gives it a nice little growth spurt. We got plenty of growing season left, so I'm going to do that here real quick. Alright, and like I said, nothing too radical, just kind of took off some of the older leaves there. And I'm going to do what I'm going to call like a seriously, very light repot. When I take cuttings like this, I mean, this is a very small training pot, and I only have it filled up to about there with regular potting soil. When I take them, sometimes I'll lean them up against the side so that they don't move around until they take root. And obviously you can tell it's taking root fine. I was really surprised. This is a used pot that I had, and it's one that I had that actually had some roots growing out of it. I think I had it sitting on the ground, and it had some roots growing out of it, and it broke, you know, so the training holes there, or I'm sorry, the drainage holes there are kind of broke anyway. That's why I kind of used it for just taking a cutting like this. Surprised they're not growing out of the bottom, and when I went to go take a look, first off, even before I pull it out and take a look, first off, you can see it's got, well, if you guys really can see, actually, yeah, you should be able to, some really small surface roots showing up. There's a good one there. And it does have a few roots kind of circling around the edges, but nothing really coming straight down out of the bottom, which is a good sign. I got it spread out pretty well. But what I'm going to do is just knock off enough of this to kind of plug up that drainage hole there. I don't want any good soil falling right out of that drainage hole. And then just kind of tease these roots out a little bit. And cut off a couple of these longer ones here. Just kind of throw that off to the side. Making a good mess in here I'll have to clean up later. And then just kind of bring it up a little bit so it's not sitting so quite deep in the pot. And then actually have some good soil to kind of mix in there too. All right, perfect. And I knocked those corners off, so just kind of enough to fill in the corners here a little bit. If I had some better used soil, I probably would have just used some used soil. I haven't been doing very much repotting this summer. It's usually my repotting time. I hate to travel after I repot, and I've had some family emergencies this year, so I just really haven't been able to do any repotting. And there we go. Hopefully I kind of remember that it's been mixed in there a little bit so I don't overwater it or anything. I mean, it should continue draining just fine, but... And let's get back to the actual tree here. And we're back to this guy. Now there is a huge chop mark here. I'll try to give you guys a little bit of a better look at it towards the end of the video once I'm going to do some light pruning so it'll be a little bit easier to take a look at. So I didn't do any pruning to what would be the apex, and you can even see now, I do have a theory that the more foliage that there is, the more aerial roots that are produced. Look at a couple of them hanging out on the outside of the pot. I want to try to push those in. Probably go ahead and keep those since it's already got a banyan look going to it. But I didn't put any wire up here because the idea is you know, when you do take the wire off, like I'm going to have to kind of do a light prune here just to even get the wire off on those lower branches. In the meantime, I can let this just run and hope to go ahead and get that scar healed up. So what I'm going to do first, and I do want to continue to let this run free, but there are just a couple of branches that are just in really bad spots. I mean, this one's growing straight down. I want to let it run free, but I do kind of want to make sure that what I'm letting run free is going to be kind of keepable growth. And I saw another one just a second ago. There we go. And that's just a couple of awkward, really bad, you know, branches that were growing there. I say really bad, just straight down growth that I don't really want to keep. Want it growing up anyway and not out and down too much. And then I did see a couple obvious ones here too. And then before I do any more, I want to go ahead and just get the wire off. Sometimes when I pull the wire off, you just, you know, just no matter how careful you are, you wind up kind of snagging it on a branch or two. So just in case I knock off something I didn't intend to knock off, I'm going to wait to do any more pruning until I get the wire off. And I'm going to go ahead and do that right now. Alright, so I've got the wire off there. And I have to admit, I like the way it looks right now. Even with that huge scar on there. Go ahead and show you guys that big scar now. See the apex coming up off of one side, this one branch coming off the other. This branch that it's coming off of, that's this branch here, plenty of growth on it, but not really quite as much callousing over that wound as the upper growth is doing. When I made that other video, I mentioned when I take the wire off, I'd probably go ahead and give this a hard prune and complete defoliation and leave this alone to allow that apex to keep running, and again, you know, just to heal that scar like I've been talking about. But I think what I want to do, I don't want it to give up on any of these branches. I kind of like the way I've got them set now. I like the initial, if I could kind of keep those in place while that apex kind of grows up a little bit. So what I'm going to try to do is get all the growing tips off, but leave plenty of growth say, you know, or leave plenty of the leaves below the growing tips so that the tree, I've kind of heard a theory that if you have it bare and then it's got plenty of sap to go, you know, flow this way, it'll just give up on those branches there. So I'm just going to kind of follow with that theory a little bit. Obviously, if I prune the entire thing, it wouldn't give up on any of these. It'd backbud no problem. But I just don't want to give it up on any of the skinnier branches because, like I said, I would like to save them. So I know sometimes I've found that if you just clip only the growing tip off, all it does is just continue growing out of that. So what I want to go is maybe like 2 leaves back and then get the growing tip and like 2 leaves and then just see how that reacts from there. A couple of these just little tiny sprouts. That one actually is going to go. A couple of smaller sprouts, I may end up just getting the growing tips so I can leave a little life on there. That's what I'm going to do to all of them. Probably not talk too much, just get to rolling here. And that is all the growing tips, but the ones in the apex there, so that should develop nicely from there. Part of me wants to go ahead and just kind of wait to see how it reacts before I actually publish this video, but I may have mentioned it in one of my last videos, I'm kind of running out of disk space. I have some projects kind of halfway done on there like that as it is, and sometimes my video editor doesn't work right when there's not much memory left in the machine. I don't really know that much about how that works, but anyhow, the last thing I'm going to do is this thing actually has some moss. One of the last times I did a video on this tree, I went in there and I pulled it all out and threw it away. I think I'm going to give up on trying to get rid of it altogether, but I think I do want to try to pull it away from the trunk. The idea was I pulled it away and I threw it out hoping it wouldn't grow back, and it just came back. So maybe I'll go ahead and embrace the fact that this tree is going to have a little bit of moss on it. But again, I want to pull it away from the trunk. I'll see how that kind of turns out in pictures. If it doesn't turn out too well, I may delete it. We'll see how it goes. I've got tweezers here. And just pull that stuff out. I was just kind of, I do my own thing. I don't really belong to any clubs or anything like that. And I know some people really like having moss. I could really care less either way. But I do know you shouldn't have it growing right on the, I say trunk, this is growing on the aerial roots more than anything. So I'll pull it off, try and see if I can get it to hold in the rest of the pot there. Let's see what it looks like. I mean, I don't want to fight anything that is unnecessary to fight. A couple of these leaves out of there. While we're down here, I noticed this one root really kind of looked crossing. Tried to move it and broke it. I'm going to leave it attached to the tree, and either it'll reattach itself or shrivel up. And then this one here definitely is crossing, and actually I find it quite distracting. I like the aerial roots, but sometimes if it's too much, it's too much. And I'm pretty sure there is no saving that guy. So I'm just going to go ahead and clip that off. And that was actually an aerial root coming from an aerial root. So, no big deal. And then when I do come back and look at it, I'll just see how that kind of does with me pulling the moss off of there instead of leaving it up close, or instead of removing it actually. There's a real close-up look at what I've got going on here, down here.